Hi, this is Audrey from defrontme.com, and I'm going to do a tutorial today on how to make the very popular Mod Podge photo tiles. And I actually have a post on this. I'm going to update my post with this video tutorial. But several of you had questions and were having some problems with the photos coming up, or there being bubbles in the scrapbook paper. So I just wanted to show you what I do. This is my method. And so what we have here is to show you quickly my list of supplies. First we have a tile. This is a 6x6 tile that I got from a hardware store. I think it was Lowe's. And these are under $1. I think some of the cheapest ones you can get are like 18 cents. But this was probably around 75 or 78 cents. This is got a little bit of a texture on it. It's not real smooth and shiny like some of them are, and I found that these actually tend to work a little bit better for the Mod Podge being applied and actually sticking to it real well. And then of course you're going to need your scrapbook paper, some photos, which I will talk about this in a second. Also, I use this Fisker's cutting board. This is a really good investment. They're only about maybe $15 at a craft store, and I have used this. I got this a year ago, and I've used it so much. So I really recommend getting some kind of cutting board, especially if you're going to be making a lot of projects like this. You'll need a foam brush, just similar to this. It can be different size or whatever you want, but these are what work best with the Mod Podge. Of course, you'll need your Mod Podge. This is actually Collage Podge. I went to my local craft store today, and they were all out of Mod Podge. I couldn't believe it. So I read the back of this, and it seems like it's exactly the same. It's instant decoupage. So we're going to see. Hopefully, it's a similar experience to what I've done with Mod Podge. I just have a plate to pour the Mod Podge on, a wet paper towel, and then some stuff for embellishing, which I'll talk about in a minute. So first, I just want to talk to you about your photo because I've gotten questions on what size photo I use. For a 6x6 tile, I get a 4x6 to start out with, but then I cut it down a little bit because if you don't cut it down, well, first off, like this one is a 4x6, and it's actually going over a little bit from the tile. So if you would have to cut this, or I would have to cut this down a little bit anyway. But I really prefer, and this is just my personal taste, I really prefer to show a little bit more of the tile and the scrapbook paper. So on a picture like this, because it's so close in and the crop is so tight, I'm really going to have to, cut off probably all of the bottom, a good chunk of the bottom. So when you're looking at a picture and thinking about what picture you want to use for this project, my recommendation is to get a crop that's not very tight. In other words, it's the person or the group, they don't go all the way to the edges. Like this one, I could probably just cut off this, and then it's probably going to end up being a 3x4. So I would say your final could be a 3x4 or a 3x5, somewhere along those lines. I think that looks best. So I just wanted to show you the different crops in a photo. Like this one, I would probably cut in here and cut in here and just have a little square picture. So if you have people all the way out here, you're going to have trouble with that. So just keep that in mind. I think I'm going to do this one of both of my boys. So then with the scrapbook paper, I'm really just try to be fast. I don't even measure this. I just kind of decide. I like to have a little bit of the tile showing all the way around, because if you do it all the way to the edge, you're going to have trouble getting the scrapbook paper to really lay flat, and you're going to probably see that the edges come up. But so I just, for my personal experience, have found that it's easier when I come in a little bit, and I actually like that look, that 2-layer look. So I always try to get tiles that I know will look good if a little bit of it's showing. So I'm going to just, honestly, just kind of mark where I think it needs to be cut. Go ahead and cut that. So see, about that much is going to be showing all the way around. So I'm going to mark this bottom one. Cut that with my handy dandy cutting board. And there's the finished. One other real quick thing, these tiles, there's going to be at least one side with like this barcode and number. So I always try to put that on the bottom so people can't, when you give that as a gift, no one will see that. I mean, you could paint it, but I don't want to mess with that. If it's on the bottom, nobody's going to notice. And then it's important to cut all your stuff first because the Mod Podge dries really quickly. So, and here again, I'm just going to cut off all the extra. I'm not even measuring it. It's a little off center. I might cut a little bit more off. Okay, so that's what it will look like when we're done, and that's fine. I like that. So I'm going to put that aside and go ahead and pour my decoupage. And this is a little different looking than the Mod Podge, so I'm curious to see what it's going to do. I've never used it. But when you start out, get a good generous amount on there on your brush. And I hope you can see this with the tile is very white, but I'm putting quite a bit on. I mean, you can see my brush going into the Mod Podge several times. This part can be pretty messy because it's going to be covered anyway, so just getting out the little bit of extras. Alright, so now I'm ready to put down my scrapbook paper, and you know, I just kind of eye it. Right now it's very loose. I mean, I can wiggle it around. If I've messed up, I can take it off and reapply it. This scrapbook paper is pretty stiff. I've never tried the stiffer scrapbook paper, and I'm thinking it's actually going to work better. I usually use the thinner scrapbook paper, the regular paperweight. So I start from the middle, and with my fingers I just start working out the bubbles. There's not really, with this heavy cardstock scrapbook paper, there's not really very many bubbles. Don't pull too hard or you'll move your paper. And you see how I'm just using my fingers and kind of going over the edges, feeling for the bubbles. And there just aren't any with this paper. I'm really impressed. Usually there would be a few, and you would just do what I'm doing and go all over. And with Mod Podge more than this, this is thin. The Mod Podge will look very white, and it'll look like you've messed up, but you haven't, because it dries clear. Okay, so then you immediately go over it with more Mod Podge or decoupage, whatever you're using. Basically the same thing. I'm going to need more, so I'm going to squirt some more in my plate. And you're just going to go over the entire thing and really coat it. And at this point, some of this is going to show, especially on the outer edges, so I'm going to start being real particular about my brush strokes. As long as they're even, then it'll be fine. So I have gone over the whole thing completely. So now I'm ready to stick my photo on. And I'm just going to center it where I want it. That looks good. And of course with the picture you're not going to have any bubbles. You can fill through if you want, but there are not going to be any bubbles. You want to use a like a Walmart or professional printed picture, Walgreens, whatever you have. Do not print your photo off of an inkjet printer, because I've never tried it, I've heard that that does not work well, that it smears. And so then you want to get more Mod Podge, quite a bit, and you're going to go over the whole thing again. So you can see I'm really coating this. Some of you are having trouble with the photo coming up at the edges, and if you're doing it properly, you will not have trouble with that. So you're going to put it all over, and this is where I just start really evening out. Okay, now I've got a bubble. So what I'm going to do is just press it out. So sometimes as you start putting the Mod Podge on thicker, you're going to start seeing bubbles. So just work those out as you see them. No bubbles there. So again, evening out the brush strokes so that when it's finished, it'll look very even. And that looks good to me. And that's really stuck down. What this is going to do is it's going to take, well, the Mod Podge usually for me takes about 20 to 30 minutes, probably 30 minutes to dry completely. And with the Mod Podge, it looks completely white, and then it dries clear. This decoupage stuff that I've got looks clear already. So we'll see what it looks like when it's completely done. But that's what it's going to look like. You can kind of see the sheen there. You can see what it's going to look like, why you want the brush strokes to be even. Alright, well, we're back. The photo tile has dried. It took about 30 minutes, but I would actually probably just let it dry overnight before I did anything else with it. Just really watch it over that 30 minutes while it's drying, just to get any more bubbles out that might pop up. So here it is, tied with the ribbon. And I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Visit us online at defrontme.com, and if you haven't followed us yet, then we'd sure appreciate it. Merry Christmas. Thanks.